So, abstract reasoning. I personally dreaded this section of the UCAT. I just really struggle to see things in an abstract way. However, I did pick up lots of tips and tricks from when I did the UCAT a few years ago, and I hope this video helps. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, Raina on the Cusp. My name is Raina and today we are continuing with my UCAT series. In this video, I'm going to be sharing my top 10 tips for the abstract reasoning section of the UCAT. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, it really helps me out, and do subscribe to my channel. I've got lots more UCAT videos coming along the way. So let's start with what the abstract reasoning section actually is. This is one of the subtests in the UCAT exam. It basically assesses your ability to identify patterns and identify them quickly. This section has 55 questions and 13 minutes to answer them, so it's definitely not a lot of time at all. So let's get on to my 10 tips for the abstract reasoning section, and as we go through, I will try and give you some examples of questions and talk you through my thinking, and pause the video and see if you can solve any of these questions as we go through. Tip number 1 is to learn the question type. There are 4 types of questions in abstract reasoning. Type 1 questions are where the test shape will fit into set A or set B or neither set. Type 2 questions are sequence or series questions. So this is where you get shown a series of shapes that follow a certain pattern or rule, and you'll be asked to identify which test shape will come next in the series. Type 3 questions are sort of called analogy questions. This is where a certain rule has been applied to a shape to change it into another shape. Then you must apply that same rule to the test shape to get the answer for that next pair. Type 4 questions are best fit questions. So they are a variation on type 1, however, you get given 4 test shapes at the same time, and you have to decide out of those 4 which one best fits in set A or set B. My second tip for abstract reasoning is to learn the scans method. Now, this is probably a tip that you've heard before, especially if you've done a little bit of research on the UCAT already and the sections. And it is true that there are a few mnemonics out there to help you, but I think that the scans method is the one that really stuck with me and the one that I found easiest to remember on the day. So let's go through what scans stands for. So S is for shape. What shapes are present in the boxes? Is there a certain type of shape in each of the boxes? C is for colour. So for example, are all the shapes white or all the shapes black or grey? Are there a combination of colours? What do those colours mean? Is there a rule that fits those colours? A is for arrangement. So this questions how are the shapes arranged in each of the boxes? Are they in a certain position in the box? Is one shape in a certain position relative to another shape? N is for number. So for example, how many of a particular shape are in a box, or how many edges of a shape are there? And finally, S can be a few things. So it can stand for size, sides, and symmetry. So do the sizes of the shapes vary in each box? Are the shapes symmetrical, asymmetrical? Is there a rule that involves the sides of a shape? So right angles, are some of the sides touching a certain part of the box? And as you get familiar with the scans method, it's a really good idea to make note of any patterns that you come across, make a list of them all, and try and learn as many rules and patterns that you can. This is really helpful for your practice and your knowledge and being able to recognize those patterns even faster. So my third tip is to use your 1-minute instruction time efficiently. This is where you could write out your scans or any other rules that you want to write down very quickly. So normally you do get supplied with a whiteboard and a pen at a UCAT test centre. However, if you're taking the test this year in 2020, I believe there's going to be an online notepad that you can get familiar with, and it'll do the same job. So instead of just sitting there for 1 minute, you can use this time to have all of those rules written out in front of you, and you can quickly glance at them as you're doing the test. And my fourth tip sort of links onto that. So this year in 2020, make sure you get familiar with the online notepad. My next tip is to identify the pattern first. So when you have a question come up, instead of looking at the test shape and focusing just on that, make sure you do look in the sets of boxes and see what the rule is. Focus your attention first on finding the pattern, and then figuring out where the test shape will go will come a lot easier. So I've picked a few questions from the official UCAT question bank that I will be going through in this video. I've got them on my laptop here, so if I'm looking down, that's why. So the first question that I want to go through will back up my tip 5, which is to identify the pattern first. So here is a type 1 question. We've got 2 sets of shapes, set A and set B, and we've also got a test shape. This is the sort of question where identifying the pattern first will really help you come to an answer. So to work out the pattern, you can look at either set A or set B. I tend to gravitate towards looking at set A. So with a question like this, you always want to be using your scans method. So when we look at set A, we can see a mixture of shapes, different colours, different arrangements in the boxes and different positions. And actually I found what was quite useful in working out the pattern for this question is to step back. When we sort of look at the boxes as a whole in the set, we can see that symmetry is playing a huge part here. So in set A, the pattern is that the lower images are a mirror-like reflection of the upper images. So what this means is that there is a horizontal line of symmetry throughout this set. And then because the 2 sets usually follow a similar sort of rule, if we look at set B, we can see that instead of a horizontal line of symmetry, set B actually follows a vertical line of symmetry. Therefore, using this rule, we can see that the test shape has a horizontal line of symmetry, therefore it belongs to set A, so you would mark this answer. My next tip to identify the pattern, start with the simplest box. This is because in the abstract reasoning section of the UCAT, all boxes will follow the same rules no matter how simple or complex they are. And because time is so tight in this part of the exam and the exam as a whole, you want to be saving as many seconds as you can. So start with the simplest box, and then once you've found the rule, I would recommend maybe testing a couple of the boxes just to confirm that rule. So let's see this in action. So the next question I'm going to go through will show why starting with the simplest box is very, very useful in abstract reasoning. This question again is from the official UCAT question bank. This is a type 4 abstract reasoning question, and again I'm going to be starting by looking at set A. And if we look at set A, I've actually circled the box that I think is the simplest box to start with. This tip is really useful for questions like this that I think are quite complex. There's 2 different shapes you can see, squares and circles, there's lines, there's different colours, and they're arranged differently in the boxes as well. Therefore, if we look at the box that I've circled, this is quite a simple box in comparison to the other boxes. And using this simple box, we can see that a grey circle connects to a black square with 1 single line. And therefore we can test this in other boxes where we can see that yes, the grey circle also connects to a square with a single line. So then you just need to work out the rule for the white circle. And once we've sort of worked out the rule for the grey circle, it's a lot easier to see that the white circle connects to 2 squares with 2 lines. And in set B, if we remember that there's usually a twist on the rule between the 2 sets, we can see that the grey circle here actually connects to 2 shapes with 2 lines instead of 1 line like with set A, and the white circle connects to another shape with 1 line rather than 2 lines like in set A. So the rules are literally reversed for set B, and therefore if we look at the question, which of the following test shapes belong in set A, we can see that the answer is A, because it is the only box that has a grey circle that connects with 1 line to a shape and the white circle that connects to 2 shapes with 2 lines. So the answer here is A. My 7th tip is to look out for conditionals and distractors. So conditional rules are where a characteristic of one shape can dictate the characteristic of another shape. So this makes solving the pattern for that set of boxes a lot more difficult. And a distractor, it's pretty much in the name. It's a distracting shape or element in a box that adds nothing to the actual rule. It's just there to sort of confuse you and complicate things. So for tip 7, all about your conditionals and distractors, I've actually got 2 examples to show you. So here again, I'm going to start by looking at set A. There appears to be many different types of shapes in different positions and different colours involved as well. So this is a conditional type question because in set A, if the shapes are unshaded, then the pairs are in an X formation. However, if one pair is shaded, then the pairs are in a cross formation. Similarly in set B, but with a twist. Here, if the shapes are all shaded, then the pairs are in a cross formation. But if one pair is shaded, then the pair is in an X formation. So it's this if part of the rule that makes it a conditional type of question. So if we look at the test shape, we can see that all the shapes are unshaded and they are in an X formation, so that belongs to set A. And here is an example of a distractor type question. This one definitely has a lot of different shapes, positions, arrangements, colours, numbers of shapes, so it's really hitting a lot of different parts of the scans method. Again, this is a type of question that I would recommend taking a step back and looking at the set as a whole. If we do that, we can see that in set A, all of the shapes have curved edges, and in set B, all of the shapes have straight edges. And actually in this question, the colour and the number of figures in each shape should be ignored. They are distractors and they're not part of the pattern of either set. So if we look at the test shape, this is a really easy one to answer quickly. It's got curved edges, therefore it belongs in set A. My next tip is to get really comfortable with triaging or flagging questions. So like I was saying with the last tip, this is where you have to be able to recognise those hard questions. However, even if it's hard, you always want to take an educated guess at that question. This is because if you leave it blank, there's absolutely no chance you'll get a mark. However, if you just take a guess, there is that possibility that you might get that extra mark. Then if you have enough time at the end after you flag that question, it gives your brain the chance to have a new look at that question and see it in a different light, hopefully, and you might end up solving it. So this is an example of what I think personally is a hard question. This is one where I would guess an answer, flag it and move on. And if I have time at the end, I would come back to this. So if we look at the sets, there is a lot going on with this question. There's different shapes, colours, arrangements, positions, orientations, numbers of shapes, everything's just a little bit everywhere. I think on the day this is a sort of question that would take too long to work out in the moment. And this is because when I was looking at the answer for this question, there are so many different patterns going on here and I don't think I could identify all of these in a time constraint. So I will read out what the answer says for this question. In set A, each figure contains one circle with a pattern. Each additional circle is white and placed at the right hand side of the figure. 3 black shapes are different from each other and any additional shapes are white hexagons. And in set B, each figure contains a single white circle, but when there are 2 circles, the higher circle has a pattern. There are 2 black shapes, one of which is identical to another pattern shape. If there are any additional shapes, one will be a white hexagon and any others would be one shaded hexagon. Gosh, that was a lot. So as you can see, just from me reading out that solution, there was, I think, 4 different patterns for each set. This would just take far too long to work out on the day. What I would recommend to maybe tackle this sort of question is if you can work out 1 rule or maybe 2 rules, you might just be able to get away with it and figure out the answer. However, I do recognise that this type of question is difficult and there is a lot of things going on. So if we look at the test shape for this question, we can see that there aren't 3 black shapes in this, so it does not belong to set A. And there is also no white circle in this box, so it doesn't belong to set B either. Therefore, the answer here is C, which is neither. So tip number 9, speaking of seeing the question in a different way. If you're struggling to find the pattern in a certain question, you might find it helpful to try and move away from the screen a little bit. This is because your brain might be focusing too narrowly on one part of the shape or the box. So by moving away, you get a clearer picture of the whole thing and you might see things that you hadn't seen before. And of course, abstract reasoning, like all the other sections of the UCAT, is all about practice. It's practice, 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 repetition of questions, doing lots of questions, being exposed to different types of questions. You need to be able to sort of condition your brain to be able to see patterns and sort of think outside the box a little bit. Trust me, I know how hard this section is because my brain just doesn't like to sort of see abstract patterns and see things. I'm much better at the verbal reasoning and the quantitative reasoning. So make sure to do as many abstract reasoning questions as you can get your hands on. This is an odd section of the exam. It's probably like nothing you've ever done before, but it is all about practice and seeing those questions over and over again. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. I've got lots more UCAT videos coming along the way. So make sure to subscribe so you don't miss those videos, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye!